I love the family drama that there's like infinite possibility for all the different ways the family drama for the Torettos could go.
It was just great to be in a very small space with Vin Diesel for quite a long time. It was lovely. I just loved every minute.
I got to use Helen's crapper.
I'm really just trying to savor it.
Her wish to be in a Fast and Furious movie came true, and now our wish of talking to her about Fast and Furious has come true. Helen Mirren, it's truly an honor to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Obviously, we're obsessed with these movies. I mean, you don't have a Fast and Furious podcast or have Fast and Furious posters on your wall if you're not. But like for you, you're also obsessed with these movies. I mean, you essentially willed yourself into them. So what is it that you love about Fast and Furious?
Well, it's the driving, the cars, the spectacle of the whole thing. You know, with this franchise, you know what you're going to get, and you know it's going to be spectacular and exciting and fun. So, you know, I think especially for us all coming out of COVID and the way we've been enclosed and isolated and lonely, you know, and in a very small environment, I think to see this wonderful, you know, expansive explosion of action and movement and sort of spectacular stuff. I think it's going to be such fun for the audiences. And I'm so glad that and it must have been a very difficult decision to take because we finished the film just before COVID started, to hold this film back and hold it back and hold it back and wait for the moment when people finally could get into the theater to watch it. Nobody knew how long that was going to be, you know. So it's fantastic that people can now go and just have a great night in the theater. I think people are really going to enjoy it.
Absolutely. Did you have, before you got into the franchise, of course, did you have a favorite movie from the series?
Not really. I wasn't honestly that familiar in a sense with the series. I wasn't an aficionado in that knowing all the characters and the stories. I think I saw Fast and Furious 1 and I really, really enjoyed it. But I had this, you know, this incredible urge to drive a car fast in a movie. It was basically that, honestly. And of course, my first two goes out. I wasn't in a car at all. I was in an ambulance in one and in jail in the other. The creators of the series very, very kindly finally put me behind the wheel where I've been longing to be.
Did you have to campaign at all to finally get behind the wheel for F9?
Oh, I didn't campaign. I whined. I moaned. I cried. I sniveled. I was annoying.
When it finally came time for you to get behind the wheel for F9, you're not only driving, but you're got Vin riding shotgun, and he's like the movie car guy, right? That's almost like the equivalent.
Can you believe it? I know. Can you believe it?
What was that like? You had your home
that
turf,
was actually,
you know,
I have
too.
to say, it was slightly intimidating, although Vin is so generous and kind, you know. But it was a little bit intimidating because those guys are so experienced at what they do. They know it, and it's all a bit new to me, you know, the technicality of it, and not the driving part, but, you know, the filming of the driving. But, you know, you're in very safe and loving hands when you're in a Fast and Furious franchise.
He told us, too, that driving with you was just a joy for him, like spending the day doing that. So it sounds like it worked out perfectly for both of you.
Oh, yeah. It was just great to be in a very small space with Vin Diesel for quite a long time. It was lovely. I just loved every minute. It was great. Hearing that beautiful, soft, brown, velvet voice in my ear, you know, really, really close because the car was like, we were squished together. Just hearing this, I so love his voice. You know, he's got the best voice ever.
Derek and I were talking about this, watching the movie, just that it seemed like there's a little bit of a flirtatious energy between you. So like, is that something that you guys were actively playing up, or is that just natural chemistry because you enjoy being around each other?
I have to say that's completely natural chemistry. It was there right from the very beginning of my first meeting with Vin, and I adored him immediately. And he's always been so kind and lovely to me. So, you know, it was there right from the beginning. And it's very weird. It's like, doesn't make any sense whatsoever on any level, you know. But that's the weird thing about chemistry, isn't it? There's never an explanation for it. It's just one of those things that happens.
Yeah.
Speaking of Vin, we talked to him and we asked him like who his dream next casting was for Fast, and he brought up Michael Caine, and he said he had an idea for something with you and Michael Caine together. Has he run this by you, or are we breaking this news to you?
No, but what a great idea! That's a fantastic idea. He's absolutely right. That would be absolutely genius, because Michael, comes from, a bit like me. My mum was very East End working class woman, and Michael absolutely comes from that world as well. So, and I have worked with Michael before, actually, quite a long time ago. We were in the same film together. And actually, he played my husband, who had, who passed away during the film. Michael didn't, but
Right.
I think that's a great idea.
I mean, I think right there we might have it. We haven't seen Papa Shaw yet. You know what I mean? So maybe you and Michael bring back that husband-wife.
Papa Shaw, and he's going to be terrifying.
I can only imagine. Through three go-rounds, like as Queenie, like we've essentially seen you work with mostly Vin and Jason, and Vanessa Kirby popped up for a quick bit at the prison at the end of
Vanessa.
of
I'd love to work with her again. She's such a talent. She's such a lovely girl. I'd love to work with her again. Yeah.
Yeah, F9 is full of so many like badass women. So like, is that the next thing we need to like campaign for you, like to get you in scenes with the Michelle or Charlize, Jordana? Like, I feel like we need that next.
Yeah, wouldn't that be good? Absolutely. I that's the great thing about Fast and Furious. Of course, it's it's about cars, and boys love cars for sure. Also, girls love cars. Girls do I love cars. So, girls do love cars. But I think the strength of the female characters for me is another great reason to be in the franchise, because I love franchises that, that promote women. That's not really the right way to put it, but, that have really authentic, good, strong female roles. We need, the next generation of girls need to see that, and they are beginning to see that, and that's great.
Are there things that, now that you've driven and everything, are there things that you would love to do as Queenie that maybe you haven't gotten to do yet, that you've seen in other scenes of the movies that you're like, I want to be part of that type of stunt or that type of character arc or anything like that?
I love stunts. I have to say, and I do as many of my stunts that as I physically can. I love flying, for example. When they haul you up on a rope, and you're flying. I love that. It's fantastic. So yeah, something to do with flying would be great, where I sort of, come out of a window or something and, fly through the air and do something or other. I'd love that. Yeah.
Yeah, we see the zip lining basically with John Cena's character.
Wouldn't that be fantastic? Or sort of, and I've never been up on one of those, those, what are they called? Where you have a big wheel, sail behind you and you just sort of float through the air. Not a parachute, but there's like
parasailing type of hang
parasailing,
gliding. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant.
I mean, Fast is always reinventing action, so like I'm sure they will find something for you to do in the next few films.
Yeah, but I have to say I quite like Queenie just being really down to earth and just a real character who's just like there and tough and manipulative, and so that's also pretty cool.
You've managed to be a bit of the connective tissue between the main films and the spinoff with Hobbs and Shaw. You're jumping back and forth on those. It's like, what do you think the immediate future is for Queenie? Have you had any conversations about what's next for her?
I put myself in their hands, if they want me, I'm standing there first in line. But, if the stories go a different way, that's understandable. But I have to say, working with Jason is the most incredibly professional, hardworking, great, really, really good actor to work with. He's just so committed, so professional. All of these people they're great to work with. So, and Vanessa was wonderful, funny and great, and a great girl. And the atmosphere on the sets of these movies, from for me, has always been fantastic. So, you know, I'm happy to go in whatever direction they might push me, unless they decide to push me off the end of the pier and say goodbye to me.
That's when you
Queenie
fly.
would get out of it.
Like mad
Yeah.
to stay on board.
I know one person in the cast who would love to work with you. We talked to Sung Kang, and he was saying that during filming F9, that there was a break from filming, and when he came back, he realized that you had used the same trailer, and he was like, "I really just want to meet Helen and have tea with her and do everything." So, and we know there's like the connection between the Deckard character and Han. So, like, maybe Queenie gets involved somehow. That would
Maybe
sure
she
he would
does.
love
That would be cool. Absolutely. That would be great.
Absolutely. Like I said, more of Queenie. We will take it in whatever fashion that we
Good.
get it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I love to hear you guys calling her Queenie, because I gave her that name. You know,
did
she's
you really?
named after I had an auntie Queenie. One of my mother's sisters was called Queenie, which is a very old East End name. It's nothing to do with the Queen, you know. But I thought it was funny. You know, it was a funny thing to play the Queen and then to be called Queenie.
Yes.
Who's a very different person from a very different background. So I love the fact she's become, my Auntie Queenie has become a part of the Fast and Furious. She'd be amazed if she knew.
That's amazing.
That's incredible. I mean, how much input did you have on the initial development of the character? Like, obviously,
Quite a
I'm sure
lot,
that-
actually.
Yeah.
Quite a lot. It was, you know, it could have gone in any direction. I mean, obviously, she was Jason Statham, the character that Jason plays, mother. So, you know, there is an East End connection there. I kind of immediately knew how I wanted her to be, you know, this sort of tough, matriarchal, powerful woman who is, you know, had to make her own way in life and has always done it slightly on the dodgy side, you know, as we say in England, ducking and diving. But with great strength and great character and intelligence.
I know I had a big smile on my face the first time I saw F9 and I realized that Queenie was about to pop up on screen. You could just tell
Yeah.
the minute that necklace, you're like, oh my God, here we go.
Here she comes.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
it was so much fun. So thank you
Great.
for taking the time to chat Fast and Furious with us.
Thank you.
Trying your best to become me.
It's her brother too, and she's also our returning guest. Jordana Brewster is back on our binge of Fast and Furious. When you got that script for F9, what was that personal like wow moment for you? I mean, there's a lot in F9, so was there one that really jumped off the page?
There is. I mean, Jacob, first of all, and then the idea that Mia reached out to Jacob without Dom knowing, because I feel like Mia's always been so loyal to Dom, and she has never really done anything like that. And I feel like that's not something we've explored enough in this chapter. So I'd love to explore that further in future ones. Like, dude, beef between me and Dom. We've never seen that before. So I'd love to see that. And then the other thing I was really excited about, well, obviously Han.
Surprise.
Nice clubhouse.
Han coming back was a huge one. And the fact that Letty and I play an integral role in finding him. Every time I read one of these scripts, I'm always like, how are they going to execute this? Like, this is really all great in theory, but like, how the hell? And then they always end up doing it beautifully. So I'm kind of as astounded as any moviegoer.
For us too, like speaking to that is like seeing the flashback stuff. Like Vin had hinted to us that we would get more perspective on some of the stuff that tied into the first movie, but then to see it, for you to read all of that flashback stuff and then to see it take shape, what was that like? Like, it's been 20 years. We've got all of these nuggets about what the Torettos are like growing up, but then we actually finally get to see sort of the founders of the Fast family come together. And for us, it was like mind blowing to see even that glimpse of everybody really young at the street race. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really cool to see everyone really young at the street race. It was also, I thought it was really masterfully done the way they had, you know, our dad and Vinny, who played young Vin, the way he mastered Vin's voice, the sense of guilt he had makes you understand why Dom is the way he is. I love the colors of the flashbacks and the way it was shot. It was almost like it had like a James Dean 50s vibe to it, which I hadn't envisioned when I was reading the script. I was like, how are they gonna, you know, initially I was like, you feel territorial, right? When I felt territorial when I was reading this, and I was like, "What do you mean, young Mia? What's that going to look like? I'd like to have a say in who's going to do this." So I was just relieved, frankly, because I was a little bit nervous about it. But then I think it plays such an important role in elucidating to the fast fans, like where we're coming from and why we are the way we are. And also as an actress, it's going to help me in prep when we're going for the next one. Like, okay, this is our family history. This is what's going on. And now I'm kind of curious about like, where's our mom at? Like what happened with her? So I feel like there are even more gaps that we need to fill.
Yeah, there's so much backstory explored here, but like you're right, there's still so much more that can be done, in the next few films. And you alluded to it, I loved the little nugget that Mia, reveals that she had kept in touch with Jacob, at least a bit, after the fallout with Dom, and even broke into a police archive, which I was like, oh, okay, okay, Mia, like I'm into that, which was fascinating for viewers. But then it's funny, I brought this line up to Justin. I wonder if you remember this. In Fast 4, and I rewatched it, ahead of, the podcast and everything, Mia goes up to Dom and is like, how do you say goodbye to your only brother? Which is, was a fun little discovery.
How do you say goodbye to your only brother?
Yes.
Totally.
So I pointed that one out to Justin, and he's like, "I promise that'll be we'll take care of that." But how much do you remember talking?
Say that? I wonder what he means.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that was a very it was tough because that was the Fast 4 pod, so we couldn't act like we had seen F9 already. So we had to play a little dumb when he teased that. But like, how much did you talk to like with Justin and Vin about kind of like reconciling these things and kind of what led to the to the Toretto separation?
I didn't put their feet to the fire as far as that stuff goes, but I'm definitely, Justin's like right next door doing interviews, and I'm going to hit him on the mother front immediately. But I think you could also interpret how do you say goodbye to your only brother as he was the only one that was there for me, and Jacob may have been run off, but he also did leave. Yeah. And then he also made some pretty crappy choices. So we could say, and I think thematically it's also on point, because thematically family in this universe means it's not just about blood. It is about putting your time in and whether you're there for, whether you're going to like, it's like whenever you have the scene where we all meet in the warehouse, and it's like, we don't have no idea what we're about to do, but we're signing up for it. And it might be absolutely insane. We might have to like die for it, but we're going to do it because of family. Mm-hmm. And Jacob betrays that. So, yeah, maybe I do mean it when I say he's my only brother.
I think that would make sense.
Pretty hardcore of Mia, actually.
I know, right? But like,
Done
it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it
pretty
makes sense.
Ride or die. I like it.
Yeah, it makes sense what you said. Like he, especially it's, I guess, not fully clear if Dom ever shared, kind of what happened between them. So like to her, she's like, yeah, my brother did, like, I tried to stay in touch with him, but then he just fell off the face of the planet and then abandoned me. So like, this kind of is my only brother left. So that makes total sense.
Right.
Like,
the last time that we spoke to you, you were talking about how like you had really campaigned to do more stunts and stuff with Mia. So in this, you have like this really great fight sequence with Michelle, and of course as Letty, and then the L character. But what was it like, even not just the fight sequence, but that whole portion, the Tokyo mission? What was it like to get to work with Michelle? Like, we know Letty and Mia have been friends since they were very young, but this is the first time we've really seen them get to team up. So what was it like to finally get to work with her?
It was really fun. It was such a fun journey because we got to meet with Justin, and we had a writer on board who was also helping us with those sequences, and it was the first time it was a super collaborative, inclusive environment, which was really awesome. And I love Michelle because from the very, very beginning, she's been really outspoken and headstrong about what she wants. And that's something I've always admired. And I'd like to take a page from her book. And I have, as I've grown older. But yeah, shooting some of those scenes in the Tokyo streets, like those were ones I will sort of look back to. And I kind of hope we get to do more of that because I love working with her, and I love the fact that we're thinking about character and our history, and yeah, that was a pleasure.
we talked about the, Jacob Mia dynamic, which I think maybe my favorite little touch of the last bit of the movie is that like it really feels like it's like Mia that turns Jacob like to back to the good side, or at least as far as he'll come. Like he, her saving him as he's falling off, him hearing her voice as he's driving off and then turns back around. Did you and, Justin, or you and John kind of talk about the nuances of that Mia Jacob relationship? And did you also kind of appreciate how much, she factored into, her brother's, turnaround?
That's something that Justin put together masterfully. I think he had a plan for that. And because I do think that the Mia and Jacob relationship could be, there's only so much time in these films, and there's so much, everyone, there's so much to do. And I'm kind of in awe of the fact that Justin was able to give everyone their moment of glory, and everyone had a little bit of action in this, and that's so difficult to do, and there's so many different characters that you have to service. But I'm really glad that I got that moment with Jacob, because otherwise we didn't really interact that much. So I think it'd be nice to take it further in the next one. But I did love that it did seem like Mia penetrated into his, tough exterior, where he's just not letting anyone get in. But it did feel like Mia did, and made him think twice about where he was going.
I think that's like perfectly displayed too in the goodbye that happens sort of at the end of everything, because the hug with Mia is so much more outwardly emotive than what happens between Dom and Jacob. And so I love the callback to the 10-second car of it all. And you kind of touched on this too, like there are layers that haven't been explored even between Mia and Dom now about like what that relationship was after, Dom basically banishes Jacob. So for you, like how was that ending? Was that also part of what you like with Justin put together? It's just sort of like setting up, all right, maybe there's more here. They've gotten only so far. How do you strike that line for healing versus what's to come?
Well, with Justin, he doesn't stop until he absolutely gets it. What's great about his directing is sometimes he'll keep it to himself exactly what he wants. Mm-hmm. And I think especially with the hug, with Jacob and with Mia, it was a really emotional scene, but it was also like you didn't want to go too far because I don't know, it's a very thin line. So, but I do think again, Justin knew exactly what he wanted, and for me, it was sort of bittersweet because it was like in a moment she gained her brother back and then she lost him again, and yeah, that's a little heartbreaking.
We've talked to Justin a few times about how he wants to make sure to acknowledge like Brian's continued presence in the universe, while also being obviously respectful of Paul's memory. And we get, for me, that ends right before the credits. We're at the family barbecue. You have the empty chair. There's the little, you say, he's on his way, and then that car just pulls up and, go in the driveway. And we know, like, we're not going to see, Brian, / Paul. But, like, I still just couldn't help but have a smile on my face. Was it kind of the same for you, just watching that for the first time?
Yes. Yes. It's so bittersweet when we shoot those scenes because I'm so used to shooting them with Paul. And now they've become something different. They've become transitioned into a way to honor Paul, and that seat will always be empty and will never be filled by anyone. And I'm so grateful that Justin's at the helm because I do think that he navigates that beautifully, where it's a wonderful thing that Brian's still alive within this universe because it is a way to keep Paul's spirit with us. And yeah, I think it did make me smile. It made me smile and it made my eyes water at the same time.
Justin also told us that he's always trying to think of ways to be creative about it without being disrespectful. And so one of the things he's considering, but obviously hasn't landed on so much, is how to visually bring Brian Paul back to the screen. Is that something that you would be interested in exploring too with these last two movies? It's like a huge goodbye. And I know the goal is like to incorporate as many of the characters as much as possible. Is that something that you've thought about at all as well? Yeah,
I think it's something that I've thought about since Seven, right? Since they were so, I think it was so well done, so tastefully done, given how Paul passed towards the middle of the production, and then we had to finish, obviously, everyone had to get really creative. Thank God that Justin's at the helm, and that everyone on the production would only, including Vin, would only deal with it in the most respectful manner. So yeah, I think it is something I've thought about. And I just trust the team behind Universal and Vin and Justin to do the right thing and to do what we've done so far, which is to treat it respectfully and with love.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, wanting maybe to even see some more of, Mia and Letty. We had Natalie Emanuel on our Fate of the Furious episode, and she said her dream spinoff was an all girls movie. So we were like, sign us, the hell up, like you, Michelle, Charlize, Helen, Gal. Like,
oh my God,
bring
yes.
Eva Mendes back. Like that would be all time. Like
oh my
how do we
God,
make this happen? How do we make that happen?
That would be
like.
Absolutely epic. Yeah, I forgot about Eva Mendes. That would be incredible. I think that would be so much fun. And also it's an opportunity to make it like maybe somewhat smaller in scale. You know what I mean? Like where it's not like so big in terms of the effects and the locations, but just like test it out a little bit with all of us. I think it'd be incredible. Yeah. I love Natalie. I think she does such a wonderful job as Ramsey.
Yeah,
so
she's
awesome.
So fun. It's great too because I think in this movie especially you really get to see just how different each of the women are, and so I think it would be fun to explore what they could each bring to the table that's unique to them as well.
Absolutely.
So now that you've achieved the fights and doing more stunts, is there anything that you're like ready to campaign for next in these last two movies?
Well, you guys are giving me really good ideas. I think the first thing I'm going to do with Justin is talk about Mama Toretto and what's up with that. And I do think I would like to talk about, I think Mia's always been in the role of sort of cheerleading Dom and supporting him. But I think I love the way Letty checks Dom a lot. And I think it'd be really interesting to be like, to have that conflict between them. Like if I was reaching out to them or let's say 10 starts with me in talks with Jacob and I'm like, I'm not going to lose him for a second time. Like I didn't have a brother for that long. And like Dom not approving of that. Like what would that look like? I love the family drama that there's like infinite possibility for all the different ways the family drama for the Torettos could go.
Yeah, we would eat that up.
One last question, Mama Toretto. I mean, off the top of your head, I'm putting you on the spot. Dream casting? So dream casting, I mentioned Holly Hunter earlier. I think she'd be awesome, right? Ooh. I know. The thing that I loved, we talked about this with Vin when he was talking about like casting, the role of Jacob. Vin's like, what would work to my benefit was, that I'm multicultural, that like you could go in any direction, with the casting of Jacob. So like it's the same thing, with Mama Toretto. Like
absolutely,
the world's our oyster. We could find any actress. So like hopefully,
totally.
Yeah, keep us updated on that campaign.
Open.
Yeah,
we will.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will.
Jordana, well, we appreciate you coming back on with us. We had such a good time. Thank you, and best of luck with the movie. We've already both seen it twice, so we loved it.
Yeah, love it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Damn, they got a magnet plane?
Hold on.
He's returned from space to return to our binge of Fast and Furious. Justin Lin, thanks for joining us again, this time to talk F9 and maybe some more Golden Girls. We never know.
I love it. I still got my cup, so.
Yes.
Always. So you never know. Betty White might come up in any fast conversations. So like I said, always excited to talk to you, especially, F9 now. We touched on it a little bit the last time you were on, but now we can really dig into it a bit. But before going into the details of the movie, kind of want to take a step back. I know you never expected to, be here talking about having directed another Fast movie. So take me back to how we got here. Like I know previously you've said you kind of woke up one day with an idea for a new chapter. Was that this idea of this kind of blood family angle? And what was it about that just kind of excited you and brought you back?
That was part of it. I have to say, I think the other parts are coming. I just got off the phone with Vin. We've just been like, this has been that week where we're just kind of just jumping on and talking. So I would say that, the exploration of family through blood was part of it. But I'm also very excited for what's to come in the next two films.
What a tease! That was like the intrigue there. As I've told both Vin and John, like it's hard for me to think of like a tougher role to cast and one that comes with more pressure than like the brother of Dominic Toretto. And Vin told me he didn't think about it much. Like he just felt like when he met John, like it was just right. So for you, did you feel that pressure in casting the role? And then what was it about John that kind of put you at ease and that he was the guy?
I had the excitement of saying, "Oh, great, we get to explore, this new Toretto." And then, the next thought was just pure, 100% fear of like, holy crap, how are we going to do this? And John was the first meeting that I had. And I remember I flew back to LA and he was there early and we sat down and we weren't talking about the film, but we were just kind of getting to know each other. And it was like 30 seconds in and I'm like, okay, good. I can breathe. It just, there's something about him that like, I feel right away that he understood the character. You could tell that he has siblings. And it was just a part of him that I felt like I hadn't seen. Like when I was sitting down with him, like, God, I haven't seen him do anything like this. And so there was the excitement of saying, oh, wow, we get to explore and try something even new for him as an actor, potentially.
Brother against brother. This should be interesting. But could you kill him?
Usually it's tough when you're casting, you're meeting. This one, I thought it was going to be way tougher, but he made it very, very easy, And I think I had a similar thing because I had the meeting and he left and I called Vin. I said, you gotta meet with him. And I think Vin was working out or something. And he saw him and like right there, I get a call and I'm like, wait, that's it? We're good. We're good. So I guess you worked long enough in film and in our industry. Sometimes you just get lucky, So I feel very fortunate.
So that happened even before, because of course there was the post that Vin did where he was like, I feel like John Cena was like sent to me from Paul. So you had already met with him even before that happened. Yeah.
I think it was. I think actually it was the same day or like within 2 days or something. I know. It sounds like for people to, I think I have to say it was not hyperbolic. When he kind of shared that. I really felt like it was very sincere, and I think everybody on the cast, on the crew, just felt the same way, and so it was just, it's great. It's great to be doing a part 9 and then getting that kind of feeling. So, yeah,
that's special.
What was that first moment for you, like watching, John and Vin opposite each other on camera as Jacob and Dom? Like John said for him, that was that first face-off scene at that big party that was kind of the wow moment for him. So for you, what was it like just kind of sitting back and seeing this unfold in front of you?
I had a long talk with John because, the way Vin and I kind of work, we don't like look at the clock and go, hey, we got to do this and move, right? It's kind of a luxury that we have, and we definitely don't ever want to take it for granted. And I was telling John, I said, hey man, like we might be here for a while and we might just be playing. And he was like, I saw no fear in him. I saw no hesitation. He's like, let's do this. And that's, again, it's like that is, it's always great to be, we were in this manner and everybody just felt like we've been waiting for this. And for him to be the new guy in and say, throw whatever you want, let's go. That just makes it just energizes me, Vin, and just everybody. So, yeah, it was a great moment.
So Dom has gone against like undercover cops, drug lords, cyber terrorists. So like, what makes this like the perfect foe for Dom now? Like out of everything you've done.
Oh man, I mean, I think anybody that has a sibling knows, for some reason, I don't know what it is. It could be something that happened when you're 5 years old and then it accumulates. And then, next thing you know, when you're fighting it's 100 times more intense. It has for some reason, it has that much more meaning. And even though you love each other, you want to kill each other. It's just, I mean, I have 2 brothers. So like, I feel like it's maybe therapeutic for me, and hopefully for everybody that's experiencing it with us.
With four brothers, I vouch. Yes, obviously not at these stakes, but we're right there with you. All right, well now we'll get into spoilers. So we knew Han is alive, but now we know how he's alive. We've gotten some of the details, and with the reveal of Mr. Nobody's involvement in L. You previously told us your big ideas come to you at Arby's, but how did this idea strike, and why did this approach feel right for the reintroduction of Han? Because obviously there's a lot of pressure on getting that right.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, and I have to say I feel like there is a lot of pressure, but I would also say that the pressure shouldn't be on this film. I think the way it's being presented. I feel like there's a whole film with Han and Elle and Mr. Nobody and even Giselle, and so it didn't happen at Arby's this time. It was a train ride to Edinburgh on this one. So, but it was something that I felt like, again, it wasn't like when after 6, when I left. Sung and I both looked at each other and go, well, it was a good ride, and so it's not something we take lightly. I didn't take that lightly, but there was something about the connection between Giselle and Mr. Nobody that I don't know why. It brought me back to casting Gal, and then it was the whole the Mexico Braga, and the Mr. Nobody's past. I've always, when I sit and talk to Kurt, this is funny because this is before even I had sat down with them. We were doing this. We were trying to make a film with this bastard. Oh my goodness, what's the name? The best. Why am I not? It's the documentary. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. Battered Bastards of Baseball. sorry. And it was. I don't know if you guys seen it. It's a great documentary. No. It's about Kurt Russell's father, who owns this independent baseball team in Oregon. Okay. A great doc. And so I sat down with Kurt, not about Fast, but we were just talking about baseball. And Kurt was he was on his way to the Angels. He was in AAA when he tore his rotator cuff, and then he became a full-time actor after that. And it's just these amazing stories. And for some reason, our stories from baseball and stuff got to Mr. Nobody. And again, I don't even know when this is. It's definitely post Fast 6. And we started talking about his character, and I was like, wow, this is in sync of the Mr. Nobody that when we were talking about Some Agent, we were syncing up. But a lot of it had to do with before he was Mr. Nobody, when he had a name. Right. Mm. And so in my mind, there was always some sort of connection with Giselle and Fast 4. And so I don't know if it was because of that. It all just kind of settled in. And it's like I said, I mean, it'd be great one day to make a film about to connect all of that, because, I think as we were talking and kind of working it out, it was so fascinating. And I personally just love it so much. And obviously in Fast 9, you only see glimpses of it. But I think that's part of the perk. That's, one of the perks of being part of this franchise is that we actually have volumes and chapters with these characters that you don't ever seen on screen, so.
That's incredible. And I love knowing that there is that much backstory that we could potentially delve into if given the opportunity. But also with this movie, it's never made clear what Mr. Nobody's status is. Are we supposed to know if he's dead or alive, or is that a mystery for later?
It's definitely plays into something bigger. Yeah, I can only, I don't want to give away too much, but I think it's just, Kurt is such a great storyteller. He's one of my favorite human beings just to hang out. I mean, I could sit there for days just listening to him, just talk. And we always end up talking about this character. It reminds me a lot of my experiences with Vin, where, a lot of times we're not talking about even the script or the film, but we're talking about Dom and the world. And so Kurt brings a lot of the same energy to the process.
The film ends with a mid-credit scene that literally, the first time I stood out of my seat and yelled, "Oh shit!" Like I was like, "Oh," and then how do you leave me here? I was like, "What am I supposed to do? Just walk out of the theater now?" But so obviously we get Han and Shaw, face to face, and you, as you said, like justice for Han isn't just like some one movie thing. Like there's more there. So like, I don't know, what should we take away from that kind of final scene there, and what can you say about maybe what's to come in that regard?
It's definitely, I feel like it's making a big promise. And like I said, I feel like Justice for Han is something that, I think it's going to go on, and we're going to get to explore it in different ways, I feel, but it felt really very appropriate. I think, especially the journey of how this film kind of came together, right? I think the idea of Jacob was kind of what inspired me. But then hearing the fans and the movement for Justice for Han, it took me through a journey. I mean, there was a version where there was Justice for Han, but he was never brought back alive, Oh,
wow.
Yeah. And so, it was just a process. And again, it's part of the fun of I think, being part of this franchise is that, again, there's no IP or anything. But it's also, I enjoy it. And then, look, there's no right, there's no wrong. You can only kind of go with your gut. And we've been talking a lot, and then I called Jason Statham, and it's so funny because I'd called him and he came and did the tag for 6. And we had talked about all the stuff. And then I called him one day. I said, "Hey, Jason, I'm not gonna do 7." And he's like, "What?" And so then I called him and I said, "Hey, Jason, I'm gonna have you do the tag for 9." And he's like, "But we are gonna work together after this, right?" And so he's such a great guy. So he's another guy that like I love just kind of talking about stuff. So we, since we shot that, like I would just jump on the phone and we, I love Shaw, and it was something that we had talked about long ago. And so it's not just Han, but Shaw, and so that the reconnection, it just felt great. It felt great that Jason like picked up and he's like, "Yeah, I'll be there. Let's do it." And so imagine, my life. It's actually so great to be able to, jump on the phone and just chat with them, because I think we're in that phase right now. But there's definitely like a roadmap, and I hope we're gonna have the real estate. That's always the tough thing, right? Because there's just so many characters. But I think as we're laying it out, as I'm speaking to you right now, I'm having a great time. It's weird. It's weird to have like this film that's done and it's gonna be out to the world. It's out to part of the world right now. But then we've already been building like, the other 2/3 that we've been talking about for the last 2 years. So it's very new to me, but I have to say it's very different, but I'm definitely just enjoying, just trying to really just like make sure I breathe and know that this is going to be special.
No, I was just saying Jason's a very good bluffer, because I talked to him like a week before I saw the movie for the first time, and I was like, "Oh, like Han's back. Like, any thoughts if you would return or something like that?" And he definitely had a smile on his face, but he's like, "Oh," and he's like, "Yeah, I've been dying to work with Justin, and he even was like, but they better bring me back." And I was like, "Oh, maybe we'll eventually get him back." And then I walk into the theater. And there he is. Yeah. So that secret's been safe with Jason, just so you know. He's good at keeping that.
You could trust him. I could trust him. So yeah, it was great. It was great. He kind of played it perfect.
With Sung, he had talked to us about like the push-pull for Han is always kind of like something good happens and something bad happens as well too. And so like for me, when I think about after watching F9, Justice for Han, I'm thinking about like, oh, maybe Justice is like just this character getting to find some kind of peace in his life, whatever version of peace that is. Has he talked about that with you at all? And is that informing the way that the character's like arc is going to go from here or something like that, now that we have L and his own kind of family in that way too?
Oh boy, I have to compliment you in that's an amazing question, because if I don't answer it carefully, I'm going to give away too much. But let's just say I've been talking to Sung a lot. I've been working on something, and oh boy, I can't. I shouldn't say more than that. But I think Han is obviously such a special character, and oh boy. I don't. It is a great question. But I do think that exploring, not just the what we talked about with Mr. Nobody, Giselle, and Al, and all that stuff. He obviously still has a lot. I think, the fact that I feel very fortunate. I mean, there was a big chunk of time where I'm like, we're gonna do Justice for Han, but he's not coming back. We're gonna do it, And the fact that we did that in 9 and he's now back for real, I want to make sure that we don't take that lightly, and I can assure you, definitely been working on a lot of stuff, been talking a lot about Han.
That's cool. Even knowing it goes kind of deeper than that is good enough for me.
We've talked in the past about like how Brian's continued presence in this universe like kind of needs to be acknowledged, and something that you're always thinking about, like even though we don't actually see him, in F9, like the sight of the car pulling up to the Toretto house at the end, like I just put a big smile on my face, even though like I knew, that's as much as we were going to get there. I know there's like a lot to consider, and like you want to do right by Paul and, and his family, but like, is it your hope before you guys end up that you would find a respectable, an organic way to kind of, include Brian, even more than just a little tease like we get in F9, if it's even possible?
It's very, obviously it's a very sensitive issue. I think the idea of respect that, and I'm constantly talking to Vin. I'm constantly thinking about it. I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but like even for me, the whole incident, obviously it wasn't my chapter when when he passed, and I feel very close to him still, and I think so when we talk or even work on these things, it's kind of comforting for me to know that Brian is still in the universe, and so I want to be very respectful. And it's a dialogue that we're always having. I don't want to seem sappy or anything like that, but he means so much to all of us, and I feel like I'm still glad that he's still part of the universe, and also Brian is part of the universe. So, it is something that like I constantly think about as we're kind of looking at our final chapter. I'm happy to be able to come back and to be able to even present Brian in the way we did in 9, and to me at this point, that's probably the line for me.
That makes, even that was worth it for us. Like that did what you wanted it to do.
I liked even the line in the movie where they talk about how like the kids are safe with Brian. I thought it was like a perfect way to just like put that in there. It's short but really impactful, and I think you guys towed that line really well.
Oh, thank you.
Kind of wrapping up, I was talking to Vin, and he dropped a little nugget to me that he thinks you guys will start F10 in January. I don't know if he was legally allowed to say that. I don't know. Maybe he's getting ahead of himself. But we know you guys are making 2 more films to wrap up the series. Like at this stage, you talked a little bit about it seems like there's this really whole plan that excited you and brought you back. So like, what can you say, or what would you want to say about what we can expect as we get into these final 2 chapters?
I'm excited. I think 9 was, I don't know, I don't want to use the wrong term, but there was a lot going on in 9, and I don't want to, I don't even know if recalibration is like the right word, but obviously with Justice for Han, introducing Jacob and things, but that is kind of one piece of the puzzle, and so January seems so fast for me. But it's not like, I'm like, oh God, we gotta, we have been talking about for years. And I always don't mind having a little more time to prep, but I am excited. I've never done it this way, right? Where we had to wait so long for 9 to come out. But the great thing was while we were waiting, I wasn't just sitting there. We were kind of working on everything that we were talking about. So I am very excited for this last chapter. And I know that Vin, I got to give him so much credit because I didn't know how to really articulate it. And he just kept talking about the final chapter. And, I know it sounds simple, but for me to kind of negotiate that, it all kind of made sense, as we were kind of closing out, finishing 9. It felt like, okay, great. We have been talking about this for like 10 years, and a lot of things that, that I never thought we'd actually bring to life now are starting to settle in. So we're kind of in that phase right now. And it's, again, I'm really just trying to savor it, before we kind of just roll up our sleeves and just go for it.
I mean, I feel like we feel the same way. I'm glad there's 2 final chapters because I'd be like already getting a little sappy, like if we were only one more away. So I appreciate you splitting, doing 2 instead of just 1. So thank you for that. And then, thank you as always, Justin, for joining us. Like I said, nothing we love more than talking fast, and especially talking fast with you. So we really appreciate it.
Anytime. You guys are the best. Honestly, like your energy, like it really, for us, it really fuels us, man. So I really wanted to say thank you.
Now,
not only is Justice here, but so is Sung Kang to talk everything F9. Sung, welcome back to our binge of Fast and Furious. Thank you so much for being here.
it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Han is alive. Like, and we knew it was coming, but like, are you relieved to now, you've probably been having to talk around it a lot. So now we're going to dive into some stuff, some specifics. Is that kind of a relief to be able to talk a little bit about that?
It's such a relief. Now, no more calls and no more texts of how is Han back. Come on, spill the beans, bro. Come on. We're boys. Come on. We got history. Nope. Go through the movie. Right?
I love that.
And F9 too reinvents that narrative around the crash. Like, yet again, we've seen like a couple different ways it sort of evolved over the movies, and we get another one with the involvement of like Mr. Nobody and L. So what was your reaction like when that was first brought to you or pitched to you? Like, can you take us through what that whole process was like?
Well, like I told you guys before, the fact that we have Justin Lin at the helm, I knew that the character was going to be taken care of, and the character's backstory would be respected. So, I really never had any worry because, Justin was on the case. I mean, Han is so important to him, for storyline and in his personal life. So I knew that we would be okay with that. And then I think, it was done with sincerity and respect, and, hopefully the fans and hopefully you guys, felt like there was some justice served.
Yeah.
I think so. I think we're at least, if not fully, we're headed that. We're going to keep going in that direction.
Yeah.
What
Yes,
was there?
the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there a certain aspect of this kind of reveal / storyline of what happened to Han that you were kind of most excited to dive into?
In the Fast movies, you don't get a lot of time for some, meaty dialogue and some serious emotion, So it was nice to be able to settle down and, kind of reflect on a character that is beloved, and missed in Han's heart. And, it's nice to play within all the fun, crazy action sequences. It's nice to have a little, tissue moment, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The last time that we talked too, like you had talked about like the pain of the characters, always sort of a push-pull between joy and relief and pain, coming back like this constant loop. And it sort of seems like the same, at least within the movie with Elle. Like, we find out that they have this great sort of familial relationship, and then she's in danger. For you, was that something you were thinking about too, coming back to play it again? And does that shape where you think the character could go from here?
In terms of Elle, the relationship with Elle? Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's why Han's cadence in Fast 9 is different from the other movies, because he has something and someone that he's responsible for. He has a child, he has a young one that is dependent on him. So there is this kind of more mature air to him, and it's nice, it's nice to have that balance within all the characters. You got Roman cracking jokes, and, Dom saving the world and stuff. And then, you got somebody there that, just on the most fundamental level, has to all of a sudden, be a father,
Yeah.
so it's just a different cadence, and I think it's pretty cool to be able to evolve with the character, and play different facets. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. What working with Mr. Nobody comes up. We get that kind of connection because of a relationship with Giselle. Like that's where it started. We find out that she had worked with Mr. Nobody. It pays tribute to, both her character, but also how important that love was between Han and Giselle. Did you think it was kind of important to not only acknowledge her place in Han's heart, but also to make her kind of the reason that he got sucked into this, Mr. Nobody world to begin with? It kind of adds another level to it.
Oh yeah, because there's a sense of urgency, and there's something aside from his own need, and it's also very relatable. Everybody, anyone who's fallen in love, man, so can relate with that pain of losing that person or not having that person around, but aside from just the characters, I have to tell you guys, the day I got to work with Kurt Russell, oh my God, dude, it was like bucket list. I mean, he's a childhood hero of mine. A lot of my hairstyle is influenced by his early hairstyles, and I was shaking. It's like working with a living legend, and he's old school, Hollywood, just class act, and it was just an honor. I mean, come on, it's like a bucket list. It's like you grow up watching that dude, you want to emulate, and now I'm sharing the screen with them, and it's like it was just a beautiful, beautiful day, and one of my favorite parts of the movie.
I mean, you got to work with Kurt Russell, and you got to share technically a trailer with Helen Mirren. Like that, like how do you top that? Like that's
I know. I got to use Helen's crapper.
I don't know where you go from there. Like there's really no next step.
Drop the mic. We're done.
We talked to her even, and we told her what you said about like her being in the trailer, and she's game for you guys to be able to share a scene at some point. She's ready for it.
That'd be an honor. It would be an honor.
I mean, and we might get that considering where this movie leaves us. The film obviously, has a mid-credit scene that brings Han and Shaw face to face, and literally, I've seen this. We've both seen this movie twice now. The first time we saw it on the Universal lot, it was only us two and one other person, and I literally stood up and yelled, "Oh shit!" Like when Shaw opens the door and there's Han standing, and we cut, from there. What should we, for you? We've talked to Justin a little bit about this, but what do you think we should take away from that scene, and what can you say about maybe what's to come there?
I think there's just one word: is Giselle. All roads lead to Giselle.
Oh man, that's
Interesting.
I didn't know what word you were gonna do, and I could not have picked a more intriguing one. Like that's oh man.
So does the way that this face-off is happening now, and even just the way that crash and everything is recontextualized, does it change what justice for Han means to you at all? Now it's not like it repaints the scene as like Shaw is a threat, but really like you're in on it the whole time. And yet, that he was also still trying to kill the Han character for real, which sucks. So does that change what justice means a little bit?
That's a great question. I don't know. There is, the angst isn't there anymore, right? I think now at that reveal at the end, I think when people see that scene, their feelings towards Deckard Shaw are going to be a little different, right?
Yeah.
Like, the idea of him being part of the family, we're one step closer to making that respectable, and sincere, right? Because look, at the end of the day, man, everybody loves Jason. Like, I want him to be part of the family. Like, I want to have scenes with him because, look, I'm a fan, right? So who doesn't want Jason in their movie, right? So we got to figure it out, and I know he wants to be a part of it. So I think it's a good step, right? So, but you never know. What you think is going to happen is usually not where we're going.
Right?
So
Yeah.
beware, right? Beware.
I did appreciate, like Chanelle alluded to, that they didn't Shaw didn't just get a pass. It's not like it's like, oh, he was actually in on it too, because then that would have just like not made any sense from what we saw, in like Furious 7 or Fast 8. So that I thought that was a nice important touch. So and then there's still, like you said, now there is still some unsettled business there where that there wouldn't be if we're just like, oh, Shaw was like, he worked for Mr. Nobody and everyone was in on it. So there's an important, note from Justin. Han has a lot of reunions in F9, but one that's like really particularly sweet is him and Sean getting to share that hug at the end. And, Han, I love, Han obviously already had that big sit down with everyone else where he told, the whole story of what happened. So, here instead, he's like, oh, it's a long story. I'll tell you later. Have you and Lucas talked at all about wanting to be able to kind of team up again and maybe further pay off that, that mentor-mentee relationship of Han and Sean, was so important in Tokyo Drift, and like just seeing you guys hug, I know put a smile on, our faces, I'm sure all the fans. So do you think there's kind of some more to mine between those two as we, move forward in whatever direction we go?
100%. I think, you hear all these, rumors about Tokyo Drift Part 2, right? So, I think Lucas is excited to be back in the franchise. He's older. Lucas is an amazing actor. So whatever he does, he's going to be great in. So I think there's so much love for him and his character too, and the Tokyo Drift world. It would be great to go and play with them again. He's just such a great talent. That scene is really all him. It's like he's such a great actor. Like he sets the tone. It was so easy to make that, scene come to life because he just puts everything on the table. And we sincerely missed each other. Like we didn't see each other since 2006, and he was a baby.
Wow.
And now he's a father. He's much older. His perspective on the world is different. When we did Tokyo Drift, he was just into Xbox and PlayStation, and now he's talking about Rich Dad Poor Dad and buying real estate, right? So, I think the fans would appreciate that, and I know definitely we would love to come back and tell another Tokyo Drift story.
When thinking about Tokyo Drift 2 and then thinking about coming back to the character in this movie, now that we know that there's so much more sort of going on for Han, kind of behind that narrative, did you have to do any sort of like mentally sort of placing how these things fit? Did it recontextualize Tokyo Drift for you at all? Because I know for me, like watching it now, I'm wondering, oh, when during Tokyo Drift do I think Mr. Nobody came into the picture as this other narrative is happening?
I get so lost in the timeline. Right, I go straight to Justin and I go, what was my moment before? Where was I? What snack was I eating before this thing? Where was I? So the timeline is in the snacks, right? So was I eating Doritos or Goldfish or Panda cookies? And it's really complicated for me. Like if my life depended on it, I couldn't really tell you what the timeline is. I go with my emotion, and I kind of lean towards Justin to tell me where I'm existing in this world.
It's important to have someone like that, who knows this, better than anyone that you could trust. And like I said, speaking of Justin, and I know he likes to keep everything close to the vest, but it was clear that like he's mulling over or has mulled over like, the future of Han, and probably even outside of just, a Fast 10 or Fast 11. It seems like he's got another story he wants to tell. Have you guys had any such conversation? You mentioned, rumors about, a Tokyo Drift 2.0. Have you had those kind of conversations? And like, either way, is that something you, would love to see kind of, moving that character into, a different story you can tell more there?
Absolutely. When we were younger, I think you try to distance yourself from the last project, right? And you go, okay, I did the fast stuff, and then let me move on. And now we're older, it's a different perspective where we're like, hey, what's wrong with this? Like, this is our community, it's our world. There's great tools here to tell the stories that we want to tell. And instead of like these ideas of like, oh, let's go do this movie, let's go do this franchise, you can tell, I realize how mature Justin has become, because he said, I'm really comfortable, in my skin now, and I'm really proud of what we've accomplished within the Fast universe, and let me kind of quench my thirst to tell other stories within this world, and let me use the characters that already exist, because we have a shorthand, there's a trust, there's a support from the studio, there's a fan base, and that's a level of like, enlightenment and kind of, comfort in yourself and your place that I think opens the door to so many possibilities, right? So with that perspective, I think there's, room for a Tokyo Drift too. And, there's TV World and all of that stuff today. So I think as long as someone like Justin is at the helm, who, is respecting what the history and the legacy of the franchise is to the fans, then, it's okay to keep going, but if it's just for, the dollar and just like a quick buck, the fans are going to speak up and they're going to stop watching and the franchise will die. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think if it's a balance and we're always, respectful of the characters in the story, I think, it's endless, the possibilities, guys.
Yeah. I know, yeah. As a viewer, as long as it seems like there's caring there and the attention is pure, like I'm always excited to see it. So, but given all these things that we know Han could do, is there anything sort of at the top of your list that you would love to be able to do in the next 2 movies that we know are definitely coming at least?
Let's see. I would, I know this sounds goofy, but I would love to do like a musical number somewhere, like just like slip it in.
Yeah,
I mean, just a little bit, right? Like,
yeah.
Vin would be down for that. Come on.
Yeah, there's no dancing or singing in the fast world. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where do they just get to party with each other or something?
Yeah,
some karaoke.
Right? You get all those Tuner Bell scenes with all the cars and the girls. It's like an outdoor nightclub, but there's never any dancing. Let Han show some of his stuff, some of his moves.
Yeah,
I would take a Danza Kuduro from Fast Five musical moment. Like bring the Don Omar's Danza Kuduro back. Fast 10.
Yes.
And that's everyone's just getting down to that because I know I get down to it every time it comes on. So I would love to see that on screen.
Yeah, that's a great song.
That'd be so good. Sung, thanks as always, like I said, for taking the time. We always really enjoy getting to talk to you, especially about, Fast, which, we love so much. So thank you for taking the time today and just, all the other times you have the last few months. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you guys. I mean, we don't give you enough credit. I mean, it's really, folks like you with your enthusiasm and your passion behind it that, allow us to live our dreams. So, without you, we wouldn't be here.